Imagine leading a military operation not against soldiers, but against thousands of towering flightless birds. In the surreal and often farcical Emu War of 1932, the Australian army, armed with machine guns, took on relentless emus that overran farmland like a feathered invasion force. Yet, these birds proved to be more cunning and resilient than anyone imagined, outmaneuvering soldiers and turning the campaign into a national embarrassment. From failed ambushes to impossible escapes, this video dives into one of history's most bizarre military operations, where humans fought birds and the birds won. Will a new emu-proof fence finally end the war? Watch to uncover this strange and captivating chapter of Australian history. When the Western Australian State Cabinet last week approved the expenditure of £52,000 as a special defence measure, this represented the opening of yet another major engagement in an unceasing war against an enemy as old as Western Australia itself. This war, ironically enough, is one being continuously waged against a creature regarded at home and abroad as a national symbol. The enemy is the tough, non-flying native emu, which has become for farmers a pest that has cost millions of pounds in lost production in recent years. Now the state government has drawn up plans for a new campaign against what is regarded as one of the most disastrous and astonishing natural plagues of the past. Its strategy is based on experience gained in the past. The fence will be about 135 miles long, from Wiluna to Meekatharra in the state, as part of the Line of Hunger. The fence may well be the greatest effort of its kind ever erected on the earth for the protection of crops, with various rabbit-proof fences stretching across a great part of the state. In Western Australia, the lines, like the rabbit border, run across Australia from the sandy north and fastnesses of the northeast to the Great 100th Barrier, and it is back to those zones that the experts now hope to pen them. They merely hope, for they know from experience that the emu is a tough and unpredictable adversary. The Western Australian government and farmers for generations past have employed a variety of methods to control the menace, including poisoning, trapping, and shooting on a grand scale. These have met at best with mixed success, and in many instances have resulted in defeats and humiliating official failures that are among the farcical chapters of the state's war on emus. To this day, in the state cabinet, the mere mention of the outcome of some of these more ambitious efforts at emu destruction sends men into convulsions. Among the failures was a military expedition carried out by a Royal Australian Artillery detachment employing a range of military technique, including mobile warfare strategy and guerrilla tactics. This, the most ambitious project in the history of Western Australia's war, was the one which failed most miserably, and which brought to the birds most complete victory. And the incongruity of the whole thing even had the effect of arousing public sympathy for the emus. The Lewis Gun Expedition. The operation, which began on November 1st, 1932, was unique in the world history of pest warfare. That day, a small armed party of the 7th Heavy Battery, RA, under Major CWP Meredith, set out for the rich agricultural area in the vicinity of Campion, about 200 miles from Perth. The expedition was equipped with Lewis guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The need for some quick defense measure was urgent, because some farmers had been permanently driven from their properties and others were threatening to leave if prompt action was not taken by the government. Early in this engagement, it became surprisingly obvious that open warfare against the birds was useless because of the speed of their retreat and maneuver. And it even became apparent that the toughness of their feathered hides made them immune to glancing volleys of machine gun bullets. On the second day, the expedition leader decided upon a more careful strategy. The party were at daybreak to prepare and dispatch a team towards which a flock of more than 1,000 birds had been reported to be moving. When, about daybreak, a wave of bobbing heads appeared in the distance. The detachment and amazed farm companions were hurled into anticipation of a major victory. At 100 yards, they fired simultaneously from several directions at almost perfect targets. An interesting feathered horde. They were astounded to find, after several hundreds of time, that fewer than a dozen birds had fallen. Before the leading column received the firing, the rest of the vast horde were both crouching and rushing, but soon will not only begin to be out of sight altogether. The engagement was typical of those which took place in ensuing days. During those days, apparently, the Emus began to improve their own understanding of the science of warfare. For one seasoned observer, Major Meredith finally admitted that the birds each seem to have a leader who, in his squadron, keeps them ahead, by which skill they keep watch, while in constant recovery with determination, and warn them of any approach. With scarcely a victory of any consequence to its credit, the army simply became a symbol of irate public effort under a tirade of abuse from the soldiers, who described the whole incident as the proper topic of amusement through the state. Major Meredith remarked bitterly on the inability of the Emus to keep moved even when shadowed. He ridiculed the idea that military action with a bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. They are like Zulus whom even dum-dum bullets could not stop. Another member of the party bitterly remarked, "There's only one way to kill a real emu. Shoot him through the back of the head when his mouth is closed, or through the front of his mouth when he is munching green. That's how hard it is." The plan for the barrier. Nothing since that defeat has led to such high hopes as the present plan for the construction of a special emu-proof fence in the rich agricultural area near where the 1932 fiasco took place. An agricultural expert has recommended that the new fence must replace the old days of preliminary defense with a new line. The fence will begin at the number 1 rabbit border, Lend near Mikathara, and will stretch 126 miles east to number 2 rabbit border, which is the new line of attack. The remaining sections surrounding the kind of wealth that is found only in the East-West Railway. The fence will take months, and before it is completed, the whole of the fertile area will be surrounded with rows of barbed wire, about 4 inches apart at the top and bottom. It may have the effect of defeating hordes of emus, which carry out seasonal invasions from pastoral areas further north. It is designed to funnel them in areas surrounded by number 1 fence on one side and number 2 fence on the other. In this area north of the agricultural settlements, they can do little harm. This measure is expected to be the most effective yet. It will be complemented by a beak bonus system, which was introduced in 1943 and in which the reward was increased to 5 shillings in 1954. There is also a bounty of 2 shillings per beak on emu eggs. There have been up to 63,000 beak claims in 1 year. But year after year, some degree of victory over the emu is attained. Now the long-suffering farmers and the constantly harassed homesteads will see if the new concerted measure finally means complete relief. It is not only for the heavy bush task of the large heads that they are admired. The emu, as the harbinger of the weird east-west environment, caused great distress, and the emu, so gangling and comically erect to be faked by farmers, has been the most persistent bird of all in the country for more than 200 years. What was once war along the Swan River and the Canning, where the first governors sighted between 1836 and 1848, observed from the far-off shore of Mount Baldy, and most frightening the other than that animal proved to be the emu.